I'm going to tell you about the evolution of the Penguin. About 4 or 5 years ago, I asked my sales team to produce the perfect mouse for one of our sales meetings. To do this, I gave them a lump of clay each and a couple of hours to produce what in their view was an ideal ergonomic mouse. I have those pieces of clay with me here. The first one was frankly hugely disappointing. It resembled a very traditional 1980s flat computer mouse with a left and right and a scroll wheel. Instantly dismissed. However, I was rewarded when the second one that was presented to me was suggested that you could use it in either hand. So it was that way in your right hand or turned around the other way in your left hand. So a genuine bit of innovation with some question marks over how the wiring might work if it was wired. But I liked the fact that it showed a degree of verticalness and a degree of ambidextrousness. So that actually did shoot straight away into the lead. The third one was feature-rich in terms of its functions. Generally speaking, it was also placing your wrist at an angle, close to 90 degrees, somewhere between 45 and 90 degrees, but with lots of buttons on it, in order to be able to do everything you would want to do from that position. So I quite liked it again, but it didn't really have as giant a leap of innovation as the second one. So the second one was still in the lead. Now the fourth one was really getting somewhere. This had its downfalls, but was basically suggested to be 2 mice to do the same job either side of your keyboard. So I like the thinking. It's talking about variation of posture, using your non-dominant hand, and putting your wrists in a vertical position. But practically, from a product point of view, having 2 products to do one job might have proved tricky, but good innovation. Number 2 still leading. The fifth one knew how to impress me. It put our company logo on it, but besides that, actually did create some great features. You could hold it with your right hand with a groove at the back to position your thumb, with the left and the right buttons on the right, as well as your left hand. So replicating the buttons on the left hand side of left and right. So again, common theme, ambidextrous and vertical. So I really did quite like that. I thought there were some merits to that one, and that probably went out into the lead at that stage. The final one had an accessory. So again, it was a comfortable ergonomic shape whereby you place your hand over, but it would be attached to a base whereby you rested your hand on the base and used your bigger muscles to move the mouse around. So that was interesting to me, and that was my starting point to decide what I could do to combine some of the best features suggested here into a product that would become saleable. So my starting point was to take off lump of clay number 6, put on number 5, and I thought there was something in that base, ambidextrous and vertical. So many months later, from this as a starting point, many hours on the CAD computer produced our first rapid prototype. And I was absolutely thrilled to watch this being made, but somewhat disappointed when I got my hands on it. Because in placing my hand on it and trying to use it as I imagined one could use it as an input device, it felt very uncomfortable for a couple of reasons. The head was too big and the sides were too steep, that it really was just not a comfortable thing to hold. But I wasn't put off. From there to there was somewhere between 9 months to a year, so we'd made enormous progress. The second prototype incorporated some features. We made the head thinner, we tried to shave down the sides, ultimately not enough, but we'd started. And we'd started thinking about where we would position buttons and scroll wheels. So again, a very similar feeling in terms of, I just assumed we'd get it perfect second time round, but it still didn't feel comfortable enough. We needed to shave these sides down more and think even further about the buttons. The third prototype was probably the greatest leap of all, and we actually built some electronics into it and used it as a prototype. And at this stage, I was thinking about having one button to be the left clicker, both above and below the scroll, and then the right click below that. And we introduced the bow tie to change the direction of the scroll, because we discovered in trying it that it went the wrong way if you use your left hand. So on this version, I think we got the sides right, we got the base nice and thin, and the motion began to work really well. I had hoped at this stage that you'd have one size fit all, and my idea was a bigger hand would be pressing the left click above, but a smaller hand would be pressing it below. However, when we did try it, the overall size of it was just too big, and I had to concede that we were likely to have to size the product. But we were nearly there. It did have a feeling of size, and I was struggling with a little bit of where to put my thumb and the inside of my hand. So the final prototype actually addressed that issue, and we put a small groove in the sides, so that made it much better to fit the hand in, and much better for the thumb, depending on the exact size of your hand, to have a little ledge to rest on. And at this stage, we then invested heavily in the tooling and said, that's what we're going to go with. And the drum roll moment is, of course, what we now know to be the Penguin Ambidextrous Vertical Mouse. Thank you.